I am Liz Frediani. I'm the Assistant Director for Special Events for Retriever Athletics, and I'm here today to moderate the Q&A. With us, we have men's lacrosse head coach Ryan Moran and Director of Athletics Brian Barrio. Thank you guys both very much for being here. So before I turn this over to our panelists for some introductions, I just want to thank everyone who submitted questions prior to the start of this town hall. We do have all of those and we will be going through them, but if you're on live with us and you have any other questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box and we will try to get to as many of those as we can. So now I will turn it over to Coach Moran for an introduction.
Thank you, Liz. Again, I want to thank you, Liz, for taking initiative with this. I know I've enjoyed watching and listening to all the other coaches within our department. I'd also like to thank Brian for being on all these, being so connected, being so engaged with our coaches and their programs and learning about them. And would really like to say commend Brian. I mean, he got hired, and then a couple of weeks, it seems like there was a COVID kind of hit and rocked every athletic department's world upside down, but he's done a great job staying positive in all of our meetings. I really believe he's the right leader for us, especially at this time. So super happy that he's on board within leading our athletic department. Just to kind of get in a little background, a little intro on myself. My name is Ryan Moran. I'm the head men's lacrosse coach at UMBC. I grew up on Long Island, but I've lived in the state of Maryland longer than I grew up on Long Island, so I consider myself a Marylander now. I had a couple coaching stops in this state. First stop was at the United States Naval Academy, where I worked there for 4 years. I had worked at the University of Maryland College Park for 6 years, and then I had spent 2 years at Loyola University. So as a coach, I'm very fortunate to have some great bosses and work at some great institutions. And then in 2016, I had the opportunity to interview for this position, and it was one I got offered, and I was ecstatic to accept. I've really enjoyed my 4 going on 5 years now at UMBC. The people I get to work with on a day-to-day basis, but I enjoy more than anything working with the students, my team, and the student athletes within the department, because I really believe in our university and our athletic department the right way. So with that, I want to hand it over to Brian.
Thanks, Ryan. And Ryan mentioned, obviously I started this year at UMBC. My most recent stop prior to this was as the director of athletics at Central Connecticut. But I've also had a lot of experience out on the West Coast. I was at Pepperdine University, University of Southern California, University of Nevada. And 10 or so years ago, I was at the conference office here at the America East office. So I have some experience in the area. But no doubt, it's been an unorthodox introduction to UMBC. It's been not the year that any of us anticipated, but I've said this again and again. It's while it's been challenging, it's been rewarding, and I'm certainly not feeling sorry for myself, given the people that I get to work with here and the culture that we have at UMBC. And it starts at the top with Freeman Hrabowski, and you can't say enough about his leadership and what he brings to us. But I'll tell you, the guy on this call with me right now is really special. And one of the things that killed me in the spring, maybe more than anything else, was talking to this lacrosse team and telling them that we weren't going to get to finish the season, because you could see it on the field, you could see it at practices, you could see it with what he does in the office. This is a special program, and Ryan, it's a credit to Ryan, the culture that he's built, just the championship level of just the championship culture. And I'm excited about passing some trophies around with this guy when we get back on the field. I'll tell you that right now. But it's just been a joy to be with him. The level of flexibility and compassion and outside the box thinking that this period has called for. If you haven't been around college athletics the last 6 months, this was the time that we've really gotten to see what everybody's all about. And I've said it on some of the other calls. This has almost been like this pandemic in sports has been, it's like when you go to low tide and you get to see what the boats are really made of below the waterline, and you're really getting to see what people are made of right now in this business. And this right here is certainly one of the great ones. And we've got a bunch in this department. And it's why I've never been down. And, I know we'll come back stronger. I know we're using this time better than any of our competitors. And we'll get a chance to talk about a lot of that. But, I want you to know this program's in great hands. I think the state of mind is exactly where it needs to be, and we'll be back.
Thank you. So, Coach, can you start off by telling us how the student athletes are doing, how you and your staff have addressed training, mental health, and academics since your season was canceled in the spring, and are the players currently practicing?
It's a lot of questions. I'll try and remember all of them. If I missed something, remind me, please, Liz. I'll start off with maybe an elephant in the room, too. Yes, it is a mustache I have. Our team is growing mustaches in November to raise money for the Headstrong Foundation. It's something that we're really proud of. We've been doing it and been a part of it for the last 4 years. This is going on 5. Our program has probably raised upwards to maybe $30,000, and all that money goes towards supporting families affected by this horrible disease and trying to give them financial support during this time. So fortunately for me, I think my mustache is a little bit better than others, so I can live with it. But our team, and especially for the rest of the department, they'll be having those mustaches, but they're doing it for the right reasons. Getting into our student athletes, I think our student athletes are doing great, but I also think that's a byproduct of the support team that we have at UMBC and all the hard work that they put in on the back end to make it possible for us to be where we are and doing what we're doing right now, which is aiding towards all those things you had mentioned, their academic success, mental health, and having a great and as normal as a student athlete experience as they can have right now. Certainly would like to start off by, hope I don't forget anyone, but names that jump out right now, Abby Day. I think Abby did a great job helping us with housing, being a communicator, liaison between the athletic department and resident life so our student athletes could get back on campus, have a living environment. I know that has not been an easy job for her, but she's done a great job with it. I just hope she's listening and knows that how much I appreciate it. I know the other coaches appreciate that as well. Really want to give a huge thank you to Stacy Carone and Brian Amenta within sports medicine and strength conditioning, putting together a game plan, having plan A's, B's, C's, and even in this instance, D's, so we can continually pivot but move forward while we pivot. Their work and how much effort, time they put into everything has been it's been great. And then obviously, I also want to thank Steve Levy and Sports Information, those guys helping out, trying to get us to a place where we are in terms of communicating with recruits and communicating with the alumni, communicating with people that love UMBC athletics. And the whole department, though, has really rallied together and has done a great job to, create an awesome experience for our student athletes. And our athletes are kind of definitely reaping the benefits of that right now. You had mentioned their mental health. I do think for us, we didn't start being able to do anything on the field until September 21st. So we had about a 3.5 week window where our guys were on campus, trying to stay healthy, doing the things they needed to be able to do to be able to start playing lacrosse. Those first 3.5 weeks were tough. As a staff, we tried to be as connected as we possibly could, which was really hard for us. We were learning on the fly too. We're used to these guys coming in and out of our office all the time, us being able to have full access to them when we want. So it was a little bit of a learning curve there, but I can assure you, once we got on the field, that was probably the greatest mental health helper for our team for sure. And now we're at a level where we're into week 5, going to be starting week 6 next week. We are finishing our 3rd week of full team practices. And, every morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, our guys are there with our coaching staff, putting them through some great practices. Every Friday morning, we have inter-squad scrimmages. And then it's really neat on Tuesday and Thursday, they kind of get together on their own without the coaches to do their own kind of captain's practices and stay active. So greatest mental health for us is just to have been the lacrosse stick, that's for sure. And then academically, within the academic department, Ryan Brooks is our athletic liaison. And our theme within academics is just over communication. No one's ever going to complain for being told that you try to remind them too much, so we just have daily meetings. We put a lot of emphasis with our freshmen right now, making sure we're staying on top of them, that they're developing really strong habits to get good grades. We've been really proud of our academic performance over the last 4 years, and we intend to continue to have great success in the classroom. So I'll pass it over.
I'll jump in as well. I know we've got a question in the chat box that ties in with this, and the question is, how have the freshmen acclimated to the current situation on campus? For those of you, I'm guessing that the majority of folks who listen are either going to be alums from our program, recruits, or parents. And I think it's just really important. If you're an alum who cares about this program, I want you to know what these young men and women, obviously men in this program, women on the women's side, are going through just to be on the field this fall. It is being on college campus right now does not feel like being in college in any way. Those who live in dorms are not allowed to have visitors from other dorms. They're not allowed to have visitors from off campus. There's a limit on the number of people they can have in a room. They're living, one to, if in an 8-person suite right now, there'll be 4 people. In a 4-person pod, there'll be 2 people. It's a lonely, I think, pretty challenging existence. And the way we've put it for our student athletes is, essentially this is a training camp that from the start of school until Thanksgiving till we go home for the semester break. This is training camp, and your life is your sport and school, because the other parts are they're stunted. And what these young men and women are going through to play shows you how much they care about their sports. And I've, over the last couple of weeks, gotten to a lot of practices. I came out to Ryan's practice last week and talked to the guys. It means so much to us that they've been willing to go through this to play their sport and to compete and to be ready to compete for a championship. And again, it just shows you how dedicated they are. So, when it comes to the mental health and what they're dealing with on campus, the first thing you need to know is this is an incredibly challenging situation, beyond just what you know publicly. The life on campus is not normal. And 2, we're doing everything we can as a department to try and help student athletes with that. And, a couple of the things we've done, we've had sports psychologists come and speak to several of our teams, especially our fall teams. As they learned right before the season that they weren't going to play, we've brought sports psychologists in to talk to them about how to stay positive and keep training and use this time well. We've also contracted with a mental health professional to be available on a regular basis to speak with student athletes, so that we have that set up on a running basis, so that student athletes have somewhere to go. They obviously have campus counseling services as well, but we wanted to do something extra, knowing that this was going to be such a challenge. And while we're on the subject of kind of mental health challenges and things that are difficult, I did want to stop for 1 second and just mention the loss this week of Dick Watts. I know that Ryan probably will want to say a word about that, but while we have the Lacrosse family together right now, I think it's worthwhile to mention somebody who's so important to the history of this program and to the department. And I know this has been a week where we're not together physically, but on every Zoom meeting, every chat that we've had, his name's come up and his accomplishments have come up. And we want you to know, I know we've put stuff out officially, but want you to know we're thinking about him and those who played for him and what he meant to this university.
Thanks, Brian. Coach, can you discuss the impact the limited fall season may have on the start of the spring season? Will the NCAA allow more spring scrimmages at the start of the season?
I don't know what the NCAA is going to rule in terms of more contests, less contests. Right now, I believe we're still at 17. There are some travel constraints with us right now in terms of what we're able to do in traveling right now. But the impacts that we have that I project is really, we're not playing any less lacrosse right now than we have in falls prior. And I think our guys are actually probably working on their own a little bit more because because they've had it kind of taken away for so long. The big, and we've been discussing this as a staff, I think a big hurdle that we have is the kids are going to not come back to school after Thanksgiving, which is really unique. Like when we would have our guys come back, we'd still have like a 2-week indoor season where we'd go in a rack. Like their kids look forward to it. They had the stick in their hand a lot. And there was limited downtime between finals in December and when they come back in January. Now we almost have like a mini summer vacation where we're really trying to instill methods of accountability where the guys can take the gains they made this fall and have them kind of prolonged through this extended break, and that's kind of, if we're able to do that, I'm really positive and confident, it's certainly going to limit injuries and it's going to put us in a much better position to improve and advance at a rate that's going to be necessary for us to be successful. So nothing's really kind of changed on right now in the immediate, but the future probably hurdle is still in front of us right now.
And Liz, in kind of a global sense, in terms of what's going on at the conference and nationally in the NCAA, one of the things, this is not going to be a normal year. You're seeing it in college football right now. That's not normal. Really nothing that's going on. We're trying to think outside the box to get as much of a competitive experience for student athletes as we can. Certainly the outlook for spring is better than it was coming into the fall in terms of being able to get the season in. But we we're all cognizant of the fact that there's going to be some compromises in terms of scheduling and facilities and everything else that we're doing, having fans. So, as we look at playing some of the postponed fall events in the spring, one of our key, because that's, essentially that's what's going to happen. One of our key considerations is just, look, these spring student athletes, the lacrosses, the baseballs and softballs, they lost last year effectively. And the fall student athletes now are getting their season postponed into the following spring season. And one thing that we absolutely want to be careful of and cognizant of is we don't want to compromise the experience that these spring athletes have when they get back on the field because of the fall. So, we're gonna do everything we can to give the fall sports a competitive season and a competitive experience, but not at the expense of our spring sports. So it's very important to us that lacrosses and baseballs and softballs get back as close to normal as possible, because again, we don't want to put any student athlete in a situation where they've lost, or half of their college career has been compromised by this. And that's really where we're at if we mess up another season. So we're going to work really hard on trying to manage the facility and staffing and all the other issues to give, men's lacrosse is who we're talking about here, men's lacrosse, as normal an experience as we can.
Thanks, Brian. Coach, how has your staff adjusted recruiting given the limitations that have been placed on travel and the fact that there were really no significant high school sports taking place last spring and over the summer?
Anyone that has kids on this call kind of, probably laughs in terms of how loosely kids are allowed to play right now relative to a lot of the constraints that at the university level has, but in the club world where a lot of lacrosse takes place, during the months of July and August, they played a lot of lacrosse, and a lot of the business side of it was pretty smart in terms of filming it and being able to get that out to the coaches. So in a normal summer, during the months of May, June, July, into the first week of August, myself and staff and other coaches as well, we go to these events and we sit with our chair and we watch, we take notes diligently, and that's how we start the initial process of recruiting kids. And this summer it was, we kind of went downstairs and clicked on a link and watched the game. I remember, and we still do that right now because events are still going on. So the ability to watch kids hasn't really been taken away from us. The ability to recruit and communicate with kids in person has, and we've had to think of ways to be creative in terms of how we can give a visit without having a kid on campus. And initially, and it's been kind of a couple pivots, but I love the progress we've made with it and the ability to kind of adapt and figure out ways to educate student athletes about our program, our culture, our university, and get to a point where they can feel comfortable about saying, hey, this is where I want to commit and feel like I can go, even without really meeting with me face to face ever. But that's happening right now in the lacrosse landscape. But I've been really proud of the staff. Originally we were having lots of Google Meet calls with families, going over culture, talking for extended periods of time. We've kind of pivoted more towards, we made a video of that same presentation, and now we're able to send that as a private YouTube link and then re-meet, talk about the video, so it's a little bit more interactive. I think that's been a lot more helpful with the student athletes and with the parents. So, we've been kind of adjusting on the fly, seeing what works, and then kind of tweaking things that maybe need improvement too, which is probably no different than any year within recruiting, just a lot different of the landscape for sure this fall.
Liz, this has been one of the areas that I've been really impressed with our coaches across the board. We've talked a lot as a staff about using this time to get better and not just kind of tread water. And the use of technology in recruiting, I think, is one of those things that'll stay with us after we get back. It's been there's been some really interesting, we've been able to do essentially virtual official visits with students who are way outside our region, who maybe were at a point in their decision-making process where we might not normally have committed to fly them in and do meetings. But we were able to have them meet with me and meet with the academic advisor, meet with the athletic trainer, and kind of do all the stuff they would do on a visit to campus. So, those are some things where, necessity is the mother of invention, and we're going to get better from. We've also, I know Steve Levy and his staff have put together videos of some of our facilities that are going to help us too. We've created a virtual tour of the event center, which Obviously, we want anybody considering coming to participate in athletics at UMBC to see that. And we've also done a drone video of our athletic facilities outside that gives you a really good look at those facilities. And, again, just ways to kind of bridge that gap while we can't probably physically get together with recruits, a way for them to see what we're all about. So getting better.
And Ryan, can you tell everyone a little bit about your coaching staff?
Sure, absolutely. Right now, I have 2 assistants, Coach Joseph Bucci and Coach Craig Chick. Coach Bucci has been with me since day one. He's started out, he had 2 years as a volunteer, and now he's had 3 years as an assistant. He's done a great job, and this year he's going to be an opportunity to be our defensive coordinator. And I'm really excited for him, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Jameson Kester, who had accepted an assistant job at Hopkins at his alma mater. Obviously, we wish Jameson nothing but the best, and people that were in this department know what type of person he was. Great guy. But when I hired Jameson, he had been a volunteer at Hopkins for 2 years, and I believe an assistant at Ohio State for 3 years. So Joe is kind of in the same situation, and I think it's a great time to be that's one of the best times to be an assistant coach, when you're really hungry, you want to prove who you are. That's when you really kind of dig in, cut your teeth, work hard, show everyone what you're made of. And that's the opportunity every coach wishes to get, hopes to get, and waits for to get. And now Joe has that. And, I know he's going to take full advantage of it. He's been with us for 5 years. He knows the culture. He understands the guys. He's recruited a lot of the guys. So I'm super excited for him to have this opportunity to prove himself as a great young coach in our sport. And then we have Craig Chick as well, who's on board right now as our other assistant. And Craig's graduated from Lehigh 2 years ago. Craig's one of the best professional lacrosse players out there right now. Humble brag for Craig. I mean, he is the all-time leader in caused turnovers in men's lacrosse history. I mean, that's pretty impressive when you think of all the defensive players that have ever played the sport. He's caused more turnovers than them. And he'd be the last person to tell you that, but he's helped our team a lot. He's given some fresh new ideas as a younger guy. He definitely is relatable with the kids. So I think top to bottom, though, we just have a very hungry staff. That's what I would say. I'd say we're an organized and hungry group that is continually eager to just look for opportunities to prove ourselves and advance UMBC lacrosse.
Awesome. You both may want to speak to this. Looking at facilities a little bit, starting with you, Coach, can you walk us through how the student athletes are able to use the facilities for rehab and recovery from surgery or injuries? What is available to them?
Sure. We're fortunate being in this area where weather, knock on wood, hasn't been an issue yet. It'll probably snow tomorrow, now that I said that. But, Stacy Carone has done a tremendous job. We're not allowed inside the locker room, but we have a ginormous tent. For those of you that aren't on campus that are on call, we have a huge tent, which is effectively our training room, hybrid locker room. And our guys, they kind of, I like it because it seems a little bit just more blue collar. The guys are coming in with their bags, with their equipment. They're changing underneath the tent, and then they're eager to get on the field, and they're starting practice that way. All the things we need from a training perspective are there under that tent, like rollouts. Stacy's there. We have anything our guys would use to get ready for practice is there as well. So it's a little bit of a different environment, different setting, but the facilities and the resources we need to be successful are the same resources we'd used if we were inside as well. So a little bit of a change, but everything's great.
Yeah, and just so folks know, if you're not around campus, just to get to the point where we could have our teams back on the field practicing, we had to create, and again, this is our sports medicine staff, a very detailed step-by-step plan that started with rehabbing student athletes and went all the way to competitions. And in the near future goes to competitions with fans, we hope. We know eventually, but. There's all kinds of guidelines. I mean, the inability to be close together and the inability to have a room full certainly impacts those sports medicine operations in a big way. So, the tent and the social distancing have really helped, but really it's been about careful planning. and also, careful scheduling to make sure that we can handle all these teams. So it's been a credit to that sports medicine staff for sure.
Thanks. Switching over to alumni relations, a few people have asked about what are some things that alumni can do right now to help support the team, since the men's lacrosse program didn't have their annual golf outing or their alumni game, both surrounding homecoming. And looking forward, how can alumni continue to support the team if they're not able to attend games during the spring season?
Well, I ask all our alumni just to be vigilant in following our social media outlets. We have a great Retriever YouTube page that has lots of cool content that just keeps you engaged with the program and with who the kids are within our program. We're limited in the capacity which we can have you interact one-on-one with them, but I do believe we're putting out some really good content so you can get a better idea of at least who the kids are in our program. Losing the golf outing, we don't know what's going to happen with the bull roast. Those are some hits where I know alums, I know myself especially, look forward to, and that's okay. Those events will come back. In the immediate, we just ask our guys, I'm asking them just to stay engaged, and if we ask for some help, or you can be some help, be willing, hopefully willing and able to do so. I do know going into games for the spring, some ideas myself and staff have been passing around, or having video messages from our alumni that we can play, maybe pregame meals before, multiple messages for our guys. I think that would be pretty good morale raisers for us. And then continue to just help us be positive mentors, and in terms of connecting our guys that are looking at graduating and getting into professional fields, and helping us, as they all have already, helping be that support net and be that system in terms of placing guys with jobs and getting them in front of the right people. And our alums have done an awesome job with that. And if they can continue to do those things, that's great for our program.
And for all of our teams, not just men's lacrosse, but if you're here and you care about men's lacrosse, I'll give you two things you can do. One, certainly this is a program at our level where we are fundraise operationally. And if you're at Ohio State, or you're at Texas, and you're thinking about giving $35, $25 to the program, you're wondering how much an impact that's going to have. I can tell you at UMBC, you're paying for one COVID test for one of our student athletes if you give us $25, and that means something to us. So make a gift. Make a cut. You'll get a link after this video with a really easy link to click and donate. And I'm telling you, any amount helps, and it means something to us that you're giving. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just the fact that you're attending this. That means something to us. And like Ryan said, follow us on social media. When Ryan sends you an email to update you on the program, open it. Those little pieces of engagement are so important to us. And along those lines, I'd say if you're watching this and you're interested, and you played here 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and your teammates are out there, send the link to your teammates. Ask them to watch it. Like we need the folks who are most engaged to help us connect with the people at that kind of next level. And along those lines, we're in the process right now of rolling out a formal letter winners club, which is going to be a big deal for our program. And you'll have some information about that in a follow-up email. But there's a link to register in the follow-up email. And I would ask, if you played lacrosse, if you played any sport at UMBC in the past, click that link and register and join. It costs nothing to join. It's just a formal way for you to stay connected with us. It's a way for us to communicate, and there'll be exclusive events, exclusive opportunities to come back to campus and spend time with other former UMBC athletes. But the goal is that you always feel welcome here, that you always feel like this is home, that when you come back to a game, you don't have to go find somebody and introduce yourself. We know who you are. And you're part of the family for the rest of your life. And, so if you get a chance, sign up for that and spread that around with your teammates as well, so that we get as many people register as we can and can grow those events and that the benefits of that club. That'd be terrific.
Thanks, Brian. And Brian, I think that I heard you last night touch on this next question. This group, Men's Lacrosse alumni, have also expressed interest in purchasing team swag. A lot of them think that it would be a great way for the team to raise some money. So besides the bookstore, will there be a team store for alumni to buy team swag?
You got to translate swag into like 45-year-old guy. Like, I guess you mean clothes, gear. No, we talked about this last night. Bookstore, we work really closely with the bookstore. That is our exclusive online partner right now to buy gear. And I know that they do have, I know the selection right now is a little bit limited in terms of what they have individually branded per team. What I would say is if there's, and I know there's also heavy demand for the Under Armour specific lacrosse gear. And, if there's things specifically that you don't see on the bookstore website, reach out to us because they are great partners and we can work with them to get to add to that selection if we know that there's demand. So we know this is kind of an area where we can grow and we want to get better. But we also need some feedback from all of you about exactly what you're looking for so that we can focus our efforts with them to get that stuff in stock. So if there's things you want, let us know. We'll make sure that we find a way to get them to you.
Thank you. Turning towards scheduling, Coach, we have some viewers that would like to know if we will be getting Maryland and Hopkins back on the schedule within the next few seasons.
I would love to. I really think those are some awesome in-state rivals, games that, I think our guys certainly would love to look forward to playing and vice versa. Coming in here, there's been such a transition to conference, winning your conference. That's really a big ticket right into the NCAAs. And with 73 Division I lacrosse teams out there, that competition gap has really, really shrunk. So you want to make sure that if you get that opportunity to be one of those 6 teams, one of those 16 teams, like, you're in it, and that's the first goal. And I think scheduling to make sure that you have ample time to prep for all those conference games, because each one is super important, is really where that dropping of Maryland and Hopkins in the past, and I think it was before I even got here, happened and occurred, because you don't want to have those midweeks in between those conference games. So I'm working. I mean, I have a really good relationship with Coach Tillman. He was a boss of mine. I worked with him when I coached with him as assistants at the Naval Academy. And then he was my boss for, 4.5 years at the University of Maryland. It's definitely something there's been some conversations about, but nothing's set in stone. And then with the new coaching staff at Hopkins, I certainly would be eager to get on the phone with them as well. I think this year with scheduling, though, and I think Brian would probably second it, we're all kind of just navigating. Like the Big Ten, Hopkins would be great, but the Big Ten isn't allowing, from what I understand, any teams to play Big Ten teams unless you follow the same COVID protocols. So, and those protocols really haven't been set out yet. So there's just so much fluidity in terms of, yes, Hopkins would like to play us, or we'd like to play them, but then there's the other element of, okay, well, our testing procedures the same as theirs. So there's just some hoops this year that might make it really difficult, but absolutely those are programs we want on the schedule. And I think if we keep on having continued success, they're going to want to put us on their schedule too.
That's the old scheduling thing, right? It's the, our testing protocols for the virus are different than theirs, just like we've always scheduled. No, we've talked a lot over the last year, and more so since the pandemic, about trying to regionalize as much as we can our non-conference schedules, not just in lacrosse. And obviously in lacrosse, we're in a great position to do it because you just mentioned 2 of the nationally elite programs that are within an hour of our campus, but really across the board. Because what Ryan said is completely astute, and it's true for almost all of our sports. I mean, our path to the NCAA tournament in just about every sport is to win our conference. So scheduling first and foremost needs to be getting us ready to be at our best when conference play happens, so that we can win the league. And again, that's true in basketball, it's true in soccer, it's true in every sport. But secondary to that, but also still pretty important, is we happen to be in an area where we've got something like 9 Division I schools within an hour and a half. And those are schools that I think, as a fan, as an alum, as a student, you're probably more interested in seeing us play if all things are equal, to have us play against Towson and have us play against Loyola and some of the other schools around here. So we do want to make that a focal point of our scheduling philosophy moving forward, mostly just because, it's economical, it's less travel, and it piques fan interest because, all of us know people who went to those schools or go to those schools, and it makes the game of more interest to the fans. So, we definitely want to keep that in mind moving forward. As Brian said, this year, everything's kind of out the window in terms of scheduling. We're trying to take it day by day and just get a schedule and get a competition and do our thing. But as we move forward, that's kind of the philosophy we're looking at.
Thanks. And another scheduling question, Ryan. Someone asked, knowing that most area rec and club leagues play during the day on Saturdays and Sundays, is it possible to have more of our home games later in the day or in the evening?
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of elements to that. I'll start out. Any coaches on the call might get a chuckle. I mean, fans and players love night games, and I think coaches hate them. At least every coach I speak with, it's like you're waiting there the whole day. But I love the atmosphere of a night game. I totally do. One of the problematic areas we have is I want to be respectful to the teams that are traveling here, and especially when we get into mid-March through April, when the weather starts to get better. The teams that come to us are in conference, and they're usually coming upwards for at least 5 hours, sometimes even more. So, that student athlete experience for competitors and, traveling, making it so they don't really have to travel all the way through the night and arrive, at Albany at 4 a.m. or gosh, Vermont, who knows, So, and they return those favors to us because we have to travel when we travel to AE. So, that's a little bit problematic in terms of just, hey, we got to try and do what's best for them because on the return end, they're going to do what's best for us. But the local rivals are the ones that I definitely would like to start getting more night games and midweek night games. Like we've been able to do that with Towson. We had Towson this year on Tuesday night. I thought that was awesome. If we could try and get a Hopkins and Maryland, like someone had mentioned, on another midweek Tuesday night, kind of late February, early March, like that would be ideal. And I think some of those, that would provide some opportunities in midweek for fans to get there. A little bit of a later night for the kids, but I think we all would agree. And I know looking back at my own experiences, I go to some of those night games, those college games. I mean, it's really cool. You just sit there and you dream and you're like, I hope I can either have that one time or be in that position. So certainly it's a great question and one that trying to create some opportunities for our fans and certainly our alumni to come back and be able to watch.
Great, thanks. So, Coach, during COVID, who has impressed you and your team with their training during this whole time?
I think our team, top to bottom, is a mature group. I think our kids came back. They follow the protocols from Stacy and from Brian. I've been impressed with all their maturity, to be honest. Yeah, there isn't, they all stand out to me, and I'm grateful for all their sacrifices. I've been impressed with our seniors that have come back and their willingness to try and do the best job they can with making our freshmen feel comfortable. That's a real focal point of our program in terms of really connecting, bookending those seniors and freshmen really early on, kind of connecting that maturity gap a little bit. So they've really taken a good initiative in terms of leadership of our Big Brother program and meeting with those freshmen, 1, 2, 3 times a week, getting them on the same page as us. So I've been impressed with the leadership. I've been impressed with our upperclassmen. So yeah.
And who would you say will be the most exciting under the radar guy to watch for in the spring? And how will UMBC as a team stack up in the America East this year?
Sure. Again, I try not to single out the players, but I mean, I think there's a defenseman on our team that does a lot of great things for us. His name is Colin Kasner, who probably nationally doesn't get the recognition he should get. I know 2 years ago, he was 11th nationally in caused turnovers. While he was battling through an injury the whole season. He's one of those defensemen as an offensive coach I don't like going against because he's really, really smart. He knows he has great IQ, but he's also got great stick work and knocks down passes and gets ground balls. He's a good communicator. So I guess you'd characterize that as someone a little bit under the radar that I hope maybe gets a little bit more recognition. We'll see how that goes. And with regards to America East, I just have the utmost respect for the coaches and the other players and the other teams. I think they do a great job. They're all programs are really strong programs, top to bottom. I'd like to think that if we can stay healthy, and that's like a big thing for us, staying healthy. We can compete with anyone in our conference. Doesn't mean we're going to win every game in our conference. Doesn't mean that teams can't beat us. But I'd like to think if we stay healthy and we do the things that are important to us, we follow our blueprint. We're going to be in positions to win every conference game that we play. But I do have a lot of respect for the teams that we go against and the coaches that we coach against in our conference.
Awesome. We have a couple of viewer questions coming in. So can one or both of you talk about any stadium or locker room upgrades that are in the works?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit, sure, about that. We are, for those who don't know, in the middle of a multi-million-dollar improvement at the Lacrosse Stadium. And, I think you won't see the results until the spring of 22, but it's going to really upgrade the fan experience in particular. We're adding a fan amenities building that'll have a new concession stand, new restroom facility, ticket booth, and some picnic area up above, like kind of where the temporary press box is today. And then we're going to be, replacing I guess this is pretty overdue, the press box that's been gone from the top of the bleachers for the last few years. So, we'll have the new press box, we'll have the new fan amenities building. It should be a really upgraded experience for folks coming to attend our games. And, that's, like I said, it's overdue. It's stuff that we need. And once we get that finished, I mean, we're gonna move on to kind of our next priorities. And we've got things on the horizon that we think are creeping up the priority list that I think will impact the student athlete experience as well. I'll let Ryan speak about, so I don't know what the other part of that question was.
I'm muted. Yeah. Well, me and Brian are both on the stadium upgrades committee, right? So we've been sitting in on those meetings, and it's been really cool and unique to kind of give our insight. Make sure that we're spending millions of dollars on upgrading this, that it's going to have what we need and it's going to be functional for us. So it's been fun sitting on that board and seeing all the progress that they're making. And again, it probably is a little overdue, but it's getting done. That's the great part. Stands getting fixed up, new fan amenities building, new press box, new agriculture around the perimeter, new enclosings into the stadium. So all that stuff's going to be going a long way to really making it an awesome place to play home games.
Great. And the last viewer question that we'll take for today, Brian, will there be any naming opportunities specifically in memory of our two recent alums and coach who passed away, and what are the funding levels, if so?
Boy, that's a specific question. Funding levels, I can't speak to at this moment. There are always naming opportunities, and I'll tell you for sure, the two individuals that you're referencing are two prime people that I'm sure folks on our campus would love to see memorialized on campus. So that's absolutely a conversation that we need to have, and obviously we're this week we're kind of still processing Dick Watts passing, but it's something that we absolutely need to talk about, and I think that's a direction that I could speak for Ryan, I'm sure, and for Greg Simmons, our VP of advancement, of institutional advancement, when I say that would be a really good direction for us to go. So we'll continue those conversations for sure. I think one opportunity that comes to mind kind of offhand is there is still probably room to improve the locker room a little bit, and I think something in I hate to throw numbers out on a call, but I mean I think we could come up with a manageable number for a memorial naming in the locker room.
Great, thanks, Brian. So that, like I said, that was our last question for today. I will hand it over to you for closing remarks. Brian, if you want to start.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first so that Ryan can have the final word here, because this is his show. But it's just really important to me to say thank you to all of you who both have attended live and who are watching on video. Like I said earlier tonight, it's just so important that we have our lacrosse family back and and willing to stay engaged with us. So just the fact that you're taking the time to watch this means everything to us. So again, thanks for being here, and Liz, thanks for doing a great job moderating, and Ryan, thanks for your time and your insight.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll echo exactly what Brian said. Huge thank you to everyone on this call. Just checking the attendee list. I know most of you, so that's awesome. Appreciate your support. And again, some of the things we had mentioned in this talk, I mean, obviously these are some unprecedented times, different times, just stay connected as best you can with us. That's all I ask. Follow us on our social medias, and please don't ever hesitate to reach out directly. My cell phone's on the automated signature of the emails I'll give you that I send out to all of our alums. I will try to make sure I do as diligent a job as I can, getting a message out every month, just giving updates on the team. But following our social media, following our YouTube, you can get some good insight into what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So I'd encourage you all to do that. And as any information comes my way with regards to when we're going to be able to get together as a program and an alumni base, you guys will be the first to hear. I can promise you that.
Thank you, Ryan and Brian, and I will also echo what they said. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you for all your questions submissions. We will send the link out via email to the video, as well as the link to sign up for the Letter Winners Club. Feel free to reach out to any of us with any additional questions, comments, whatever you need. We hope to see you soon, and have a great night.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.